Hello crafty friends, Tina the Scrappin' Rabbit here, and I made these adorable little bunny Valentine's Day cards, and I made a process video for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you how I put together these cuties. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, I'm using the Cupid in Training Jaded Blossoms new stamp for their Valentine's Day release. And of course, this favorite image of mine is the little bunny Cupid. I'm going to use some of my favorite things. Black, this is a hybrid ink that I really enjoy using. And to get a nice crisp dark stamp, I usually go about 3 times just dabbing the ink onto the stamp. And I'm just going to pick up the stamp and move it around so that I can get as many bunnies on this one little sheet. I plan on making about 6 or 7 Valentines for a group meetup that I'm going to be doing and attending, and so I wanted to make it easy for myself, and so I figured I'm going to do some mass production. Once I have my bunnies stamped, I debated on whether or not to put them through my scan and cut, but my scan and cut right now is covered in crafted stuff, and so I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut these out once I'm done. I'm going to start out coloring using my warm grays, the darkest being the W3, and I tend to go dark to light these days. Sometimes I'll wet down the paper with some of the lightest color, but in this case I'm going to go in with my dark, the W3. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of outline the darker parts of the bunny. Then I'm going to blend it out with the W1 and go towards the center of the face and from the outside in as well on the bunny body. And then I'm going to blend that out with the W0 and just kind of work my way in towards the center of the face being the lightest, the center of the body being the lightest. And then once I finish with the W0s, I'm going to go in with the W00 as my final color there for the bunny face and the bunny body. And I go in to do right above the little nose area, and so I'm going to start with the W1 and then I'm going to go with the W0 to blend that out, and then again the lightest color being the W00. And I'm trying to leave a little white space around the eyes. For the little nose or the cheeks, I'm going to do the RV10 and then blend it out with my colorless blender so it's not so bright. The little nose, I'm going to do the R21 and then blend that out with the R30. And then again coming in with the colorless blender to blend that up towards the top of the fur. So now that I have the little cheeks and nose done, I'm going to work on doing the little tail. And for that, I'm going to go for the cool grays. For the wings, the wings and the tail, I'm going to use the cool grays. And so I'm just going to kind of draw in some feather looking outlines and then blend it out with the C00. And then that way it looks like wings. And then I forgot the tops of the ears, so I'm just going back in with the W1 and then the W00 to blend that out to make the tips of the ears the lightest. And then blend it out with my colorless blender just to remove any lines there. And so now with the little space around the eyes, I'm going to go in with the colorless blender to try to make sure that the space around the black is nice and white. For the ears, I'm going to use the R30 and the R32, and I'm just going to go in with a little bit of the R32, blend it out with the R30, and then with my colorless blender lighten that up a little bit. And now for the hearts on the little headband and on that Cupid arrow, I'm going to start from the darkest to the lightest, and I'm going to go in with the R27. And then with the R17, I'm going to blend that out, going from darkest to lightest. And then with the R14, again, buffing that color out a little bit, blending it together. And then my lightest being the R12 towards the tops of the hearts, where the light's going to be hitting it. I'm going to go in there with the second layer of color, the R27, and then blending that out with the R17, moving the color over the R14, and then again that gives me that little lightest color sticking through the top. So here's the little tail that I did with the cool grays. And then now I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir sparkle marker to go ahead and highlight the angel wings to give it some nice sparkle. So for the hair, the little headband, I'm going to use the RV13 and darken in the little edges there, and then blend it out with the RV10 so that it's lightest in the center. And it's such a tiny little thing, so it doesn't require a lot of color. So now I'm just going to go through to all of my angel wings after I colored up all of these bunnies, all 7 of them, and I'm going to sparkle up their little wings using that Spectrum Noir sparkle marker, which is one of my favorite things to use in crafting. I just love how it just gives that extra touch. So those are all my bunnies, and now I'm going to go ahead and use the card mat dies from Jaded Blossom to cut out the top layer of my card. When I run it through my Big Shot, I have 7 of them there, and using this Falling Heart stencil from Stamp Anything and my Distress inks in Spun Sugar and Worn Lipstick, I'm going to go ahead and stencil on some of these stars for the background. I'm tilting it a little bit since I don't want to go edge to edge with the hearts, and I want to just kind of do a circle of them. So I'm blocking off with a Post-it note an area that I don't want the hearts, and I'm just going around with the Worn Lipstick to get those darker hearts on there. And at this point I was thinking that I was going to do 2 different colored hearts, but then I realized that that Spun Sugar is so light that it really wasn't showing up, so I'm just keeping it going with the Worn Lipstick, and then getting a nice good color layer on there, and going in with the lighter Distress ink now. I will buff that out a little bit and add some more color. I wanted to add just a few more hearts towards the bottom of the stencil, so I used a Post-it as my guide to not go over any of the hearts that I already did to make a mess of things, and just to add a few more across the bottom. So now here's that Spun Sugar, and I'm just going to, in circular motion, adding some pink. I felt like it needed more color on there, so I'm just kind of blending in some of this light pink kind of in the center of the card, not going edge to edge, but just up towards the top and around to the bottom. And I thought that that kind of gives it a little splash of color in the background. Using my Jaded Blossom Heart Dice 1 and Heart Dice 2 and some of this Valentine's paper from last year, and I think that I got it at Target. I don't really remember. I don't have a lot of Valentine's Day paper, so I'm using what I have. And I also cut out some card bases with that are top folding. One more layer using the scallop rectangle dies from Jaded Blossom. I love the little scallop cuts that it makes. I cut out another layer using pink cardstock. And so now I'm going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment. And this one is from the Pugs and Kisses Jaded Blossom stamp, using some VersaFine ink and some clear embossing powder. I'm going to go ahead and use my stamping tool to place the sentiment so that that way it's easy for me to just go in there and stamp them all at one time and emboss them. Using my powder tool, I'm going to go ahead and lay that down to help prevent a lot of the embossing powder from sticking. And lining up my sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and ink that up and go ahead and stamp it down. And I love the VersaFine ink because it always gives a really dark, beautifully crisp image or sentiment every time. I'm going to use that clear embossing powder that I have and put it on over the sentiment. And any excess I'm just going to brush away with a paintbrush that I keep handy on my desk. And then now using my heat tool, I'll go ahead and heat it up. Once it's nice and hot, I'll go ahead and run it over my sentiment. And I really just think that that adds such a special touch to your cards. So I'm going to use this art glitter glue. I've been using this glue since the summer, and I really think that it's my new favorite glue. So far it has been able to work for just about everything that I've needed. And so I'm just going to go ahead and use use this glue to put the hearts together as one of the layers on my card. Now that I have the hearts together, I'm going to go ahead and put that Bristol smooth paper over the top of my scalloped rectangle layer so that just the little pink scallop edges are peeking through. And once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the front of my card base. And I like how I can have some time to just make sure that my layers are straight enough for me to be happy. You can't really do that when you're using the double-sided tape. Once it's down, it's down. I'm going to go ahead and add the heart to the center of the card. And I really like the way that it just pops, that darker edge of the red. I'm going to use my double-sided sticky foam tape. It's the Scotch 3M brand. And I'm going to cut the little pieces to back up the back of my bunny and go ahead and adhere that. Not a lot of layers on this card. I didn't want too much dimension. Now I did leave the arrow blank, and it's because I knew I wanted to go in there with my metallic pen. And when I do this too early in my steps, I tend to smudge it. It does take longer to dry, and I'm not patient enough to wait. So I now do any kind of metallic marker accents at the very end of my project so that way I just move it aside and it can dry. And then for the last and final touch, I want to add some sequins and some Nouveau shimmery little dots there. So using my art glitter glue, I'm going to go ahead and adhere those 3 sequins. One on the left, one at the top, and one towards the right. And then to balance those 3 sequins out, I will go ahead and use the Nouveau drops to add that extra bit of sparkle. And once I have that done, my card is finally finished. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my projects that I shared with you today. And until next time, I hope you all have a fantastic day and happy crafting. Bye for now.